Can't get my container open. Oh, there we go. Couldn't get my container open with my beverage to start this episode. Welcome back to yet another week of Sippin With Sin, the podcast where we talk about stuff and things and stuff and everything pertaining to everything that's important to all, to everyone, to the masses. What is important? It's another week. Welcome back. We have several things to talk about. And Christian decided he's not a magician this week, so let's welcome back Christian, since you can already see his beautiful face on the camera.
Hello, how are we doing today? It feels good to be back for another week. We got some things to talk about.
Yep. We got dick butt to talk about. We got an hour of dick butt.
Hope not.
I mean, could you talk about dick butt for an hour?
Probably not an hour, maybe 30 minutes.
A good 30-minute, good half hour. All right, well, without further ado, let's just get right into it. We like to start every episode with what we have been watching, reading, listening to, or playing this past week. So let's get into that. Do you want me to start, Christian? Because I think you had a busy week.
Yeah, I think you have less than me, so you can go ahead.
He just called me less than him. You hear that? You hear that, listeners? For that alone, you should subscribe to this podcast and rate it 5 stars. Just saying. But, okay, so me, this past week, I've been watching more Breaking Bad. I think we're on, like, season 3, maybe? And I have to make a quick statement about Breaking Bad. Skylar is a bitch. That's all I got to say about that. Whoever the actress is, they did a fantastic job of just making you hate her. I cannot stand her. Her face, everything just drives me crazy. And this whole time, I'm like, man, I wish you just step on a Lego. Like, I can't. I can't. You know who she reminds me of? And I can't think of her freaking name. You watch Ozark, right?
Yeah.
What is her name? Wendy Bird.
Marty's wife?
She reminds me of Wendy Bird. Like, they have similar, just like, they get on your nerves. You can't stand them. Like,
Wasn't she, at the beginning of Ozark, wasn't she, like, having an affair at the beginning of the show?
Well, you know what? Guess what Skylar does? She goes out and she gets them strange. She's like, hey.
Oh, for real?
Yes.
I don't even remember that.
Yes.
From who?
Her boss.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, it wasn't it like after.
She finds out Walt's a drug dealer, and then she's like, first off, okay, let's pause. Who in the hell in the workplace? Has anybody ever had the seminars in the workplace? It's like, what is it? Sexual
harassment.
Yes. Mm-hmm. He's gonna ask for her to sing like Marilyn Monroe for his birthday when she is preggo as hell. And she's going to get all up on him just about singing this song. I'm like, and all these women are just watching and smile. I'm like, who in the hell would not think that's uncomfortable? Like, this is a married woman.
It was. I do remember that. I forgot all about that.
And then, that's before they do the deed. Before he butters her biscuit. Then, they start buttering biscuits and stuff. And just, I can't stand Skylar in it. I cannot. God, Walt is, I mean, God, I don't know. Okay, that was my mini rant about her. I've been complaining about her since we started watching the show again. I don't know what it is, but she does a good job of making you hate her. I'm assuming that's what's supposed to happen because I just can't stand her character. I'm sure she's a lovely person, the actress, but in the show she sucks.
Yeah,
she can step on all the Legos.
Is what you're saying.
Do what?
What you're saying is she did her job.
Yeah, she did a good job because I'm assuming that's what's supposed to happen. I don't know anybody. It's like Skylar White is awesome. I'm like, no. She sucks. She sucks big time. And Hank, I have to say, Hank is a damn good cop. Dude is smart as hell. Walt's brother-in-law.
Yeah.
He's a good cop. Dude's on top of his stuff. Anyway, so we were watching Breaking Bad.
He just looks like Michael Chiklis. Remember Michael Chiklis from The Shield and the Fantastic Four movies?
Okay, Fantastic Four, yes. Shield, no.
You didn't watch The Shield?
No.
Damn.
I mean, when you said Shield, I had like WWE entrance busting in my head. That's what I started thinking of. That's where my mind went. I watched the Royal Rumble this past weekend.
How was that?
We watched Royal Rumble, and me and the missus have had not an obsession, but like, you know what our go-to drink has been lately, Christian?
Please tell me.
Vodka.
Really?
Yeah. I know. Why are you shocked? Because I like whiskey, but we have been doing.
I've never seen you drink clear alcohol, so that's different.
we've been doing vodka, and I've been making like almost like a vodka club soda with like my own little twist in it. I've been doing that, and then vodka and like I don't know why I said it weird. Vodka and cranberry and stuff. And it's been even the missus has been enjoying it, so it's been pretty good. I mean,
Yeah, you guys are gonna have a second little baby
no,
Sin
dude.
here.
No, it ain't about that life.
Vodka.
No,
Sure,
this is
sure.
parental juice
vodka,
to
dude.
help after a week. And so
Yeah,
we watched Royal Rumble. Royal Rumble was okay. The Bray match was kind of cool. It was different. I liked his little.
I actually didn't see the Bray match. Like who I don't even know who he fought.
He fought L.A. Knight. He did like this black light paint or something all over his face and had fangs and like crazy eyes and looked pretty cool. Like I liked it. He put a different mask on later. And then like other figures like the rabbit and the pig and all that stuff showed up. Uncle Howdy jumped off of something, kind of missed his mark, landed on the dude later. Like a whole bunch of stuff happened. The Royal Rumble matches themselves were they were okay. Wasn't anything like crazy that happened, you know?
How did you feel about evil Asuka, I guess?
Oh, she looked cool. I liked her little like face paint stuff. Cody Rhodes won the men's, which is cool because it's like a lifelong thing with the Rhodes family and stuff. So it'd be, I don't know. I like Cody Rhodes.
I think my biggest problem with the women's Royal Rumble is okay. So obviously the two women that I had in my corner didn't win because it was Rhea, right?
Yeah. I like her,
and
so
Rhea,
I'm cool with her winning.
I really like Rhea. I like Rhea Ripley a lot. I like her a lot. The problem is, I think that if the plan was to go into this with Rhea winning, then don't give us evil Asuka and don't give us this, the cool spots with Becky. Just have it be Rhea
Becky's
winning.
setting up with Bayley. They're gonna have something. And then
Yeah,
I'm almost
Becky
wondering if
Bayley
Asuka's gonna be against Bianca. I feel like that's where we're going.
But that's the thing, though. That's the thing. Don't give me this dark evil Asuka, right? Don't let that be her debut at the Royal Rumble just to lose. I feel like that killed so much of her momentum.
Yeah.
Like I know that she got to the end, right? Like I love that. That was great. But like she could have been, in my opinion, she could have been Dark Asuka at WrestleMania. Like that would have been so much better to me. That would have been so much better if she debuted as that version of herself at Wrestle. I keep wanting to say Royal Rumble, but at WrestleMania, because that makes more sense for her to win. You know what I'm saying? Like it gives us the fans more of a reason to root for her, because going into the Royal Rumble, if you've been watching wrestling for even the last couple of months, you went in thinking, well, Rhea's going to win. They've been pushing the shit out of Rhea. She's going to win. That's just
I don't know. I like Rhea. Rhea's definitely she's not that old. Which she's already had a lot of success. She's been a champ and stuff, but she's
very young. Actually.
I think she's going to be a pillar of the women's division for a very long time.
But I get that. What I'm saying is, I also very much like
Asuka's already won, by the way, too.
Doesn't matter. Charlotte Flair has won literally everything, and now Rhea's fighting Charlotte at WrestleMania. Like I don't give a damn about that match. I literally don't care.
Because out of the women they've showed for the elimination match or whatever they're doing to announce, I think Asuka's probably Bianca, which would be Bianca is a hell of a performer, man. She crushes it every especially big shows. Yeah. Bianca goes ham. All right, Bianca, we're not getting sidetracked though. I know you have love for him. No sidetrack. Best part was the Roman thing with Sammy. I think that's really good storytelling. That's been fun. Curious to see how it plays out. But it was okay. So I watched that. I know we have a lot, so I'm trying to keep us from veering off track, Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Christian's like, I want to talk more about Asuka. It's like bubbling inside of him.
I'll have my time.
Okay, so yeah, watch that, and we can have more in-depth on that and all the storylines and stuff when we have a little less to talk about. So maybe next episode, or I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Closer to WrestleMania, I'm sure we'll go into all the stories and stuff. But no Rock show up. I don't think he's doing it. I think he come out and said something like he's in crazy shape, but it's a difference between being in shape and being in ring shape. And I don't think he thinks he has the time with everything going on to be in ring shape to be a main event for WrestleMania, which is understandable. So we'll see what they do. I kind of hope Sammy has something, but I think what I've seen is Sammy and Kevin Owens maybe going against the Usos, which I feel like, I don't know, Sammy's over big time right now.
He is.
So Sammy, I don't know. You could always split Roman's titles, but I don't really know what they're going to do. We'll see. All right, so watch that. Had vodka while we watched that, by the way, because, you know.
Hey, you did.
Yeah, we did. And, yeah, the other thing we'll talk about in a little bit that I've done this past week, but I finally finished the main story of God of War Ragnarok. I have completed the main story. I even did, like, as of today, I finished the little extra thing that rolls credits afterwards. I don't know. You did that, I'm sure, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Did you do it? Because you seemed hesitant.
No, so here's the thing.
Oh God.
I'm at the thing, but I have my power cut off once I did that, so I don't know if it actually saved that I did it. But if I didn't, you just have to go back to the location and you get the same cutscene. So no problem.
Huh? You making up stuff?
No, you have to go to a certain location after you beat the game, the main story, and then you get another little piece of the story. It's very short and very sad. And
okay. Yeah. I don't know if we have time to go into a full breakdown of God of War Ragnarok.
Just tell me what you rank it then? What do you rank? Out of 10, just give me your score.
I really like it. It was a really good game.
What does that mean?
I wouldn't put it up there as my favorite game of all time like you did. I wouldn't do that.
What's your favorite game of all time?
Heavy Rain right now.
Okay. This isn't better than Heavy Rain. Nothing's better than Heavy Rain for you. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just trying to make sure.
The reason
I know
is what I felt when I played Heavy Rain was crazy.
Say that the first part again.
What I felt when I played Heavy Rain, the first playthrough, knowing nothing, and just being that engrossed. Last of Us is up there with that though, because Last of Us brought a lot of emotion. I will say this: I expected a little something different for the ending of God of War. And
what do you mean?
I was preparing for it the whole time, and for it not to happen, I was like, "Oh, okay."
I think at this point you should just open this up. Hey, spoilers for everybody who hasn't beat God of War Ragnarok. We're gonna spoil it starting.
I mean, the
right
game's
now.
been out. What is the release date? November 9th?
2 months.
I mean, we're going on what? 4 months?
This is month 3. Wait, I can't even count. You said November, so yeah, November, December. It's been out for 3 solid months.
Almost
this is
4.
month number 4.
By the time this episode comes out, it'll be right at 4 months.
Yeah.
So yeah. No, I really liked it. There's a lot of parts. Obviously the final. Are we talking about stuff?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, if you haven't finished God of War and you're a slacker like me, you might want to fast forward just a little bit to avoid spoilers. If not, and you beat it, cool. All right. Beginning. There you go. There's your signal. Thor fight was really cool. I really liked the Thor fight. I actually really like Thor in the game.
Which Thor fight?
The final Thor fight.
Okay.
I mean, all the Thor fights, or both Thor fights are cool, but I really like Thor. The final section of the game is really cool. Ragnarok looked freaking sick. And
yes, he did.
Damn, I forgot what it's called. The place they go to like get the fire giant. Not World's End. What is it called? You know what I'm talking about? Where you
I'm thinking of Muspelheim right now, but that's where you go to.
But I mean, it's a place, and it's like this beautiful backdrop of like all this like space and
the Edge of Eternity or something. I can't remember.
It looks amazing. Visually, the game is fantastic. It's great. Kratos is definitely aged and is a wiser, more mature Kratos. Less. I'm just gonna go kill actions and figure it out later, which is completely fine. I don't know why everybody has a problem with that. I mean, he's aged, he's older. He's honestly trying to be more peaceful and just be more chill, and he is, I don't know, learned from, I guess, his past things. The Odin tear thing I did not see coming, and I was like, this like, ooh.
There's a lot of there's a couple of things that Odin Tyr does to tip you off that something's not right. And so for me, and I know now it's come out, like I was trying not to look at anything until I beat the game, and then I started looking at stuff. So I did find out one thing. I caught it, but I thought it was just like a mistake for a little bit. But if every time Tyr talks and you have the subtitles on, there is no like accent over the Y for Tyr. But when people talk about Tyr and say his name in the subtitles, there is one. And I was like, how come there's never one when he's talking? That's weird. And the other thing was, why is he sleeping in the closet? And then when you're Atreus and you go back to your house, in the dark room of your house, there's the raven that transport you, like, for Odin. And I was like, why is he in the closet? That doesn't make any sense, because he's so tall. Tyr's huge, right? So if he's that tall, he couldn't sleep in there unless it's like a casket. That doesn't make any sense. So that was bothering me. And then the way that he talked to Freya, when you finally get Freya to come to your team, and he calls her, I forget the thing, but it's what Odin always calls her. Nobody else in the game called her that but Odin. So when he called her that, when you show up to their house or whatever, I was like, something is wrong. Like, I didn't know it was Odin. I just thought he was evil the whole time, because every single time he talked, he was always pushing Atreus to do the same shit.
I didn't trust here by any means. Dude didn't fight ever, and I was like, come on.
And then he said he would at the end. Remember, he's like, well, the next time I'll pick up my spear and fight. I was like, you don't even have a weapon. But also, I just didn't believe him. I didn't trust him at all. I will say, because we're talking about spoilers, when Brock dies, bro, I was like I was shocked. I was shooketh.
The dead don't die, because though, Christian.
Brock, huh?
The dead don't die.
Oh my God. Here's the thing. It pissed me off, and I was sad, because Brock is the best brother in my opinion. And it's for the same reasons that Kratos says it. Kratos says in the game that he likes Brock more than Sindri because Brock speaks plain. And that same for me. I really like that Brock is just, if Brock doesn't like something, you know. If Brock likes something, you know. Brock tells you the truth all the time. Brock never lies to you in either of the games. If he doesn't want to tell you something, he just tells you he don't want to talk about it, but he never lies to you. Sindri lies all the fucking time. And it wasn't like, oh, I don't like, not that. I just prefer Brock. I think his design is cool. The way that he talks is cool. I like how I like how he is. He's the comic relief. But of course, the comic relief always dies in these types of, epics and in these dramas, right? That's how it goes. So I was really sad. And then a friend of mine was like, well, I never understood why Sindri was blue. And then he thought Sindri was blue because he came back to life or whatever.
Brock was blue.
And I was like, they tell you in the first game why he's blue. Like, you clearly didn't pay attention. Sorry, Brock. I was like, they tell you why Brock is blue in the first game. They also tell you why Kratos' Leviathan axe hurts Thor so much and he doesn't heal. They tell you that in the first game. And I played the first game months and months back, and then the second one came out. I didn't go back and replay the story because I remembered all the big parts, just because I like the game so much.
It's been a couple years since I played the first game.
Yeah. So do you know why Thor never heals when he gets stabbed?
It's a venom or something on that axe, right? Like, it's some kind of
something. From Yomengander, the world serpent. It's remember when Kratos throws his axe into the water at the beginning, and then World Serpent shows up and then spits it back at him. It's been imbued with, I forget what the venom's called, but it's that venom. Yeah, you're correct. So that's why he can't heal from it, because that's poisonous to Aesir. which is what Thor is. Ace hears with the gods. And then there's so many things about the game I could talk about. We'll hold it for another time, but I love the game. Right now, it's still my favorite game of all time, and I'm replaying Mass Effect 2 right now, and I still love the game. It's fantastic, but what I felt playing God of War Ragnarok as opposed to what I felt playing Mass Effect 2 is a little different. It's a little bit more mature, and I like the progression. I like the storytelling, and the ending for Kratos was beautiful, and him finding that painting of him, dude,
Being a
totally broke
god,
down
being
in
worshipped.
yeah, broke down into tears when I saw that. Just like Kratos, like he just sits there by himself crying, and then
Loki will
he
go.
sees Freya.
Atreus will stay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Loki must go, but Atreus stays. That was awesome, dude. I loved all of that shit. And when he gets pissed off and calls Atreus boy again,
Did you
it
think
was
he was
great.
dead when you wake up as Atreus? Or not dead, but like on
Yeah,
his deathbed?
you mean Kratos?
Yeah.
No, I never thought that
I did,
Kratos was
because I
dead.
was like, why is Kratos not by Atreus? And then everybody's like, yeah, go see your father. And I'm like, we're going up these damn stairs. Like, I swear, if I get up here and he's like laid up, because he got stabbed by Odin, like in the ribs. I was like, if he's laid
Yeah, but
up,
Odin was a pussy.
Odin, God, that was a fun fight too. But Odin's a little bitch. Why does
Yes, he
Odin
is.
always suck in every telling of everything? Odin is always a sneaky little shit. You notice that?
We'll get into it. We'll talk more about it. We got to keep moving on. We
Yeah,
got to keep
we'll
moving
get
on.
into we'll have a full-fledged conversation about the God of War I guess games. We'll go into it. I didn't really want to go in deep today because we have quite a bit to talk about, but I did beat it. I'm planning on finishing up a few things, but I'm getting ready because the missus will be taking over and becoming a wizard sometime next week. So I had to wrap my stuff up. Quick note on God of War, though. It reaches 11 million units sold, which is pretty crazy. Well deserved, though. I mean, it's a great game. What I would give it, I'm going to say a 9. I'll probably go 9. 9.95. I mean, it's a good game. Like there's nothing that I have no beef with the game. Like there's no problems that I have. I will say though, I expected, me personally, going into it knowing that they weren't doing a trilogy, I was expecting Kratos to die. And so I was waiting on that noble sacrifice at the end. But the way they set it up, they could either do a standalone side game with Atreus, or I don't really know where they can go with Kratos. I mean, there's
how much. Yeah, well, I'll give you my thoughts on that when we come back around to God of War, but
right.
we'll move on.
But yeah, so that's what I've been into this past week, and yeah, there you go. All right, Christian, what have you been into?
A couple things. I'm going to try to do this as quickly as I can, just so we can keep it moving. But this week, I did do a couple of things. I finished reading the third novel for the Mass Effect book set that I got, and the book was called Mass Effect Retribution, written by the same guy, Drew Carpathian, and I really enjoyed the story. I didn't like it as much as the one before it. I think the second novel was definitely the best one for me. It was definitely the strongest story, and the first one was really good too. I actually have it here. This is the novel here, though. Retribution. It's the thickest one out of the 3 that I have. And there is a book after this, but it's not written by the same guy. It's written by a whole different guy. And I do have the novel in the corner over there. I just haven't read it because looking at the reviews, apparently that book is like trash and hated from all the fans of the book series and the games. And the timeline doesn't make any sense. So if I do read that one, I'll just kind of do it casually later on. I'm not going to make it a thing right now. There's so many other books that I have that are begging to get read. So I did do that. I played more Mass Effect 2, of course. Dead Space is coming soon. But like you said, my fiance also wants to play Harry Potter, or I'm sorry, Hogwarts Legacy. So I'll be doing a lot of that next week. And I'll play Dead Space when I can. I did watch something that I wanted to talk about, and that is Wakanda Forever. I finally watched Wakanda Forever.
I haven't got to see it yet. I was actually want to watch it soon.
I have some thoughts, and I will go over those thoughts quickly and as spoiler-free as possible since you haven't seen it.
All right.
You've seen the trailer, so you know that T'Challa is not in the movie. So like I said, I'll go over this the best I can. Shuri, we'll talk about her real quick. The actor did a great job. Great job as Shuri. Brought it this time around. The motivations of this character made a lot of sense because she's dealing with a lot of grief and a lot of anger. Um, doesn't always make for a likable character, but it does make sense. And once you watch the film, you'll see that she is essentially what Killmonger was in the first movie, but without being the bad guy, right? Like the motivations are very very similar there, and you'll see once you watch the movie what I'm talking about. I got to talk about Queen Ramonda, which is T'Challa's mom, Shuri's mom, uh, Angela Bassett. So good, loved her. She was one of my favorite parts of the movie. Not even gonna lie, loved it. I'll move on. There's a cameo scene in the movie that you'll see. I want to know your thoughts once you see it, but I won't go into it. Okoye. Okoye is always one of the best parts of any movie that features any kind of Wakandan characters in it. I absolutely loved Naya Guerrera as Okoye in all of the films, and this one is no exception. I loved her in this movie too. Her performance alone as Okoye makes the movie worth watching, and she is most of the time the comic relief. And she's funny because she's just funny, not because everything she says is like a Marvel quip. You know what I mean? Some of the stuff is very Marvel quippy, but not all of it. Some of it is just fun, and I really enjoy that. Namor in this movie. I really can't talk about Namor without getting into spoilers and stuff. I will say this: if you are a huge fan of the comic accurate version of Namor, it's different in this movie, which I know you're not because you probably don't know a lot about Namor, to be honest with you. But they changed a lot of shit about him to make him different from Aquaman because when you boil it down, Aquaman and Namor are essentially the same fucking character, but Aquaman is just stronger than him. And I'll fight anybody on any hill for that because Aquaman, I think, is literally could kill Namor, no problem. Um, Namor is literally just Aquaman if he were a douchebag all the time, and that's the only difference.
So he's the deep.
But his fighting scenes were great,
He's
and
the deep.
you will see. Say that again.
He's the deep.
Nah, he's much better than the deep, bro.
You said Aquaman if he's a douchebag. I mean, that's.
I mean, like when I say douchebag, I mean more so like he's Aquaman from. Have you seen Flashpoint, the animated Justice League movie?
No.
Jesus Christ. Well,
Speaking
we won't
of
get
what
into
I've seen,
it. Don't worry.
I need to tell you a wholesome moment that I meant to put in the previous thing I was talking about. So, the boy, I don't know what was wrong with him, but he decided not to sleep the other night. Like, he would just scream bloody murder every time you put him down. He ended up in bed with us, and do you want to know what we put on and what he's now in love with?
What's that?
Batman the Animated Series. Like, when I say in love with, like, he watches a lot of Bluey. He loves Bluey. Like, it's one of the cartoons, like, you'll catch his attention. And I forget what the missus had on, but I was like, no, we're not watching this. And I turned on Batman, and she was like, it's probably not bright enough for him. That kid sat there for hours because he wouldn't sleep. And I don't know if he just didn't feel good or what. He sat there for hours, and he would just point at the screen. I would say, Batman, and he would just point. And was in utter awe of it. And we watched so damn many episodes over the last couple days of Batman. And every time I turn on, he'll just point, and he's like, he has a little Batman hat he'll wear. Yeah. I'm like, all right, we can watch this. This is cool. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah,
Batman.
Man. That's exactly how it was for me, and I'm excited for you and for him on this Batman journey. And
I'm talking about, like, we have plenty of Batman content for you to consume, young one. Like, and if we run out, we'll hit Christian up to get more stuff. Like, you will have your Batman fix. Do not fear, little child.
Absolutely, I got you.
Okay, continue. Sorry, I knew you'd be excited about that.
Absolutely. They entered. So Nakia in this movie, who was the love interest to T'Challa in the first movie, is back in this one. She's absolutely gorgeous as well. Of course, she kills it. We already know she's great. And then we have a new character in this movie. Her name is Riri Williams, and she's from the comics. Her character was way sassier in this movie than she is in the comics, and like I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but the way that they kind of frame her character and what she's all about and all that, her motivations, I just wasn't on board. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't really care for her, the characterization of her that is in this film. The actress is great. She did a great job with the material she was given, but it was weird. It was very, very weird for me to accept that she was Ironheart. And I'm sure that'll change when Marvel does the Armor Wars show or movie, whatever the fuck it is they got coming out. I'm sure it'll be different, but yeah, man, Riri Williams was absolutely one of the weakest parts of this movie to me. And when she gets her Ironheart suit later on, like it looks like a toy. It looks honestly like a toy, and I kind of hated it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm sure that they'll keep giving her new suits, a la Iron Man, how he had a new suit every time we saw him on screen. But I don't know, man. This first go around was not a fan. Was not a fan at all. The movie overall, though, I did enjoy. I liked it. The music was great for the most part. The acting was on point. For pretty much everybody brought their A game. And the movie was sad, dude. It was a sad movie. It was a good movie. It was it as good as the first one? Absolutely not for me. The first one definitely trumps this one for me for a lot of reasons. But that doesn't mean that this movie wasn't good. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's worth a watch, especially now that it's streaming for free on Disney Plus. And that's what I watched. Now, before we get into what we are here to talk about, I got some news that I wanted to go over as briefly as I possibly could. So, are you ready for me to go over this news?
I'm ready for news.
All right, the news is James Gunn finally got off his fucking ass and told us what we're going to be seeing for the DC slate of films and TV shows coming out. And man, I was so fucking hyped to see him drop this news. I've been waiting all month. He was like, "Yeah, I'll do it before. It'll be before February. I'll drop it." Cool. I knew that he was going to wait to the last day because James Gunn is a giant troll. But when I finally got the news, dude, I was not hype. I was not hype. And that means a lot because I'm a huge DC fan. I have a child named after a DC character. My whole life is based off of DC, so I was so excited. And then you get the news and like it's cool, but that's it. It was just cool. There was no oh shit moments for me in the news. And the closest that we got to an oh shit moment, I'll talk about here in a minute. But before we get to that, I want to break down quickly what we're going to see coming out. First things first, Superman Legacy, new Superman movie coming out. I'm excited as I can be for a Superman movie. I'm not the biggest Superman fan in the world, but I do want to see what they're going to do with the story. James Gunn let us know that he's doing a younger Superman. He's going to be in his mid to late 20s. So we'll see who they cast to be this character. We'll see what kind of story they're going with. I really just want the movie to be good. Like, it doesn't need to be great, but it needs to be good because it's Superman. If you get a bad Superman movie, it kind of sets the precedent for all the movies you got coming out afterwards. So I'm hoping for the best. Next up on the list, we have, and I forgot something to write down, so I'll talk about it when I get to the end. But Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Two problems I have with Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. One, it's based off of a great comic. I don't know how they're going to do that story in a movie. Not because I don't trust that they can do it. It's just that Supergirl hasn't really been on the big screen in so long for the general population that you need to explain a little bit about who she is, where she comes from, and to tell a story this far out from Superman, who's supposed to be 20, is very weird because Superman doesn't meet Supergirl until he's been Superman for a long time. So I don't know how that's going to link up. It doesn't seem very cohesive, and I need to see who they cast, I guess, and what more of the plot. I'm assuming. But if you've read the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow story, it's fucking dope. And if I'm not a Supergirl fan necessarily, like I like her, but she's not my favorite. But that story was fantastic. So read the story so you know what I'm talking about when I say I don't know how they're gonna do that kind of Supergirl with this kind of young Superman. It doesn't make hella sense. So we'll see. The next thing I want to talk about, Paradise Island, which is a show coming out for HBO Max that is based around Themyscira, which is where Wonder Woman is from, also known as Paradise Island, thus the name of the show. The way that they pitched it was it's going to be a Game of Thrones-esque show featuring pretty much all women. Here's the problem. We have a Wonder Woman show that is on Themyscira, which is also called Paradise Island, but the plot is that it's a Game of Thrones-esque show. How is it a Game of Thrones-esque show if it's Paradise Island? We're on fucking paradise. Why are we backstabbing each other? I don't understand that. So what is happening on Paradise Island to make it no longer paradise and for it to be this Game of Thrones, Westeros-esque world? That doesn't make any fucking sense to me. I need clarification, James Gunn. So I'm waiting for the clarification because right now that sounds dumb to me. Next one, Lanterns. Lanterns is going to be a show and not a movie, which I'm okay with. HBO Max. It's going to star Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. If you're a Green Lantern fan, you know those names. If you're a Green Lantern fan from the late 90s, 2000s, Jon Stewart is your Green Lantern. If you watch, shows like Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, and if you're reading comics around that time, then Kyle Rayner's your boy. Here's the thing. I want this show to be good so bad because I fucking love the Green Lanterns. I think that there's some really good storytelling to be done there. I'm really excited to see who they cast as the Lanterns. I'm really excited to see what kind of villains that they have in the show, what the overall plot of the show is going to be. I'm very, very excited. However, if they don't put hella money into the CGI for this, it could bomb real bad because Green Lanterns have rings, we know, power rings that give them the ability to pretty much do anything. They make constructs with their mind that can be anything. So if the CGI is ass, the show for this is going to also be ass. So please, God, put money into the visual effects for this and don't write the characters to be idiots. Please, God. Next on the list, Booster Gold. We're getting a Booster Gold movie. If you are not a comic book fan, you don't know who the hell that is. Booster Gold is a silly, silly, silly character. A lot of people are going to say Deadpool-esque. I don't think that he's necessarily Deadpool-esque. He's who is he like? He's kind of like I can't even give you a character that he's like right now at the top of my head, but he's super goofy. The whole thing is he's from the future. He's a nobody. He takes technology from the future and time travels to our time to pretend like he's a super all-knowing superhero from, our time. And he essentially just is being a superhero for money. So it's really silly. And James Gunn is behind writing some of this, so I hope that it's not Chris Pratt, because if it's Chris Pratt, I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't want any more superhero-led movies with Chris Pratt. I think that he is not hurting for money or work. I don't hate Chris Pratt by any means, but we can do better. There's more actors in the world than Chris Pratt, please God. So I like Booster Gold as a character. He often teams up with Blue Beetle, not the Blue Beetle that we're going to be getting in the movie with Jaime Reyes, but the original Blue Beetle, which should also be in that film, so we'll see. But I'm moving on to the next one. We have a show called Waller, which stars Amanda Waller, who is still played by Viola Davis. So with that being said, it's a soft reboot. We're not getting rid of everyone. So I don't really like that. I think that the whole point of this should be that everything in the DC universe, as far as the cinematic universe, should be getting rebooted. All new actors, all new stories, all of that. But they're not wiping the slate clean. James Gunn is keeping the Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad.
He did do the last Suicide Squad. His Suicide Squad is safe. He's saving them. He's saving Viola Davis as Amanda Waller. He's saving.
So do you think
Harley
that's why
Quinn,
he's taking, since he had
Robbie.
his hand on that, he's bringing her over?
Who, say that again?
Is that why he's bringing her over, because he had his hand on that one? So it's kind of like,
pretty much anybody who made a cameo in James Gunn's material when he was working with DC stayed around. Notice that Henry Cavill didn't make a cameo appearance as Superman in the Peacemaker show, so Henry Cavill's out. Ezra Miller stayed around for that cameo.
Did you see his comments on
Jason
that, by the
Momoa.
way? Or were you getting to that?
Do I think what?
Did you see
Say that
James
again.
Gunn's comments on the Flash movie?
He said that it's the greatest superhero movie he's ever seen. I'm sure. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, I mean that's what he said. That's a very bold statement. So we'll see. We'll see.
I think. I mean, to go into it really quick. Of course, he would say some shit like that because the movie comes out this year, and you need people to go see the movie.
Yeah.
So sure, if
Also,
I were
we got
behind
a
that movie, I'd
Batman
be saying the
announcement,
same shit.
I think.
We did. I'll get to it.
Okay.
It's actually is. I got one more thing, and then that. The other thing that we have was I forget what the show is called. It's something kind of dumb. Oh, we got a couple things. So Swamp Thing is getting a movie.
Yep.
I love Swamp Thing. If you're a fan of the comics, you like Swamp Thing. But if you're not a fan of the comics, you probably don't know who Swamp Thing is. He looks like Man Thing from Marvel, but Swamp Thing is older than Man Thing. We'll see. I need to see it.
It's supposed to be rated R in a horror movie, right?
I don't know. I don't think they're going to do that, to be honest with you. That wasn't a part of the announcement that we got, so I highly doubt it.
I saw something about being a horror
We also
movie.
got an announcement for another movie called The Authority. The Authority is a superhero team that they're kind of like the Wildcats, not Wildcats. Wildcats characters that we had that people remember. One of the characters that's the most popular from The Authority is the Midnighter. And the Midnighter and his husband are like two famously out gay characters. They're awesome. Midnighter is pretty much the Punisher, but DC, and his husband, fiance, however they do it, is essentially Superman. And the reason why those characters exist is because the person who created it were like, what if Batman and Superman dated? So they made these two characters, and that's essentially what it is. But there's other characters in the Authority. I don't want to go over the names of all of them. The Authority is actually pretty cool, but nobody knows who the fuck they are. Like, I'm gonna be honest, and that's why they're being a thing, because James Gunn loves to take characters that nobody knows about and try to make them cool. So the Authority having its own movie is kind of cool if you're into them, and I do like those characters. So I think that they deserve that spotlight, that limelight. But he already said that the Authority movie is going to lead into another movie that is Superman versus the Authority. And we know we're getting a young Superman. He's in his 20s, not yet with Lois Lane. They didn't confirm that, but that's what I'm speculating at this point. So we'll see what happens. I'm not super excited about this movie yet, but I do like those characters, so hopefully they get done justice. And then there's another show that's coming out that I'm not looking forward to either, and it's called Creature Commandos. It's an animated movie. If you guys remember Suicide Squad from James Gunn, Weasel, that's one of the characters in this film, this animated film. Why though? Like, do we need? It's like World War II is the plot. They're in World War II. They're doing some Suicide Squad-esque shit, and I'm just not excited for it. But I'm gonna watch it because it has Frankenstein in it, and it has Weasel in it, and it has Rick Flag's dad, Rick Flag Sr. He's in it. So I'm looking forward to seeing those characters do some stuff. It's animated, and James Gunn already let us know that all the actors who voice characters will be the live action versions of those characters too. So that's really cool to see. So if you see somebody in the new slate of DC stuff that's in an animated film, that means that they exist as that same character in live action. So I'm excited for that. And the last thing that we're going to talk about, which you hinted towards earlier, is the new Batman film that we're getting. It has nothing to do with The Batman. We are getting The Batman 2, which is titled The Batman Part 2.
Yeah, that's what I was talking
so
about.
I'm really excited for that. It's its own thing still. They're not touching that. They're leaving it alone. This is a different Batman.
I wish they would have done like you wanted him to do, where the Batman and then what'd you say? Like, he's vengeance and this would be I'm the Knight or something like that. Mm-hmm. Or maybe that'll just be what he says this whole movie. Who knows?
Yeah, and the way that I was thinking of it, to clarify that to the listeners and watchers, in The Batman, he calls himself Vengeance. I'm Vengeance. He says that the whole movie. And if you've watched the animated series of Batman, that's from a classic quote, which Batman says, I am Vengeance, I am the Knight, I am Batman. Yep. So I'm thinking in the second movie, he will say, I am the Knight a lot. because it just makes sense to go with that. And then the last part of the trilogy, he will say, "I am Batman." So he wouldn't fully be calling himself Batman until we get to the last movie of that trilogy. I
So
hope
pretty
that's
much
what
he hasn't
happens.
fully become
Matt
Batman
Reeves,
yet, right?
yeah. I mean, he's been Batman for 2 years, but
But
like I
he's not
said,
fully like,
people kept.
yeah,
He's not the Batman we're ready for
yeah.
yet. So yeah, to answer your question. Anyway, going back, this film is called Batman: Brave and the Bold. Um, Brave and the Bold has been in DC Comics for a long time. It's typically when they team characters up. One of the most famous was Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, and the Flash. Then you had uh, Green Arrow and Green Arrow and Green Lantern. They were also Brave and the Bold, and that's when we got the story of Roy Harper, who is shooting up, and we get that whole storyline where he's doing that, loses an arm, all that stuff. But that's where that comes from. So in this, and we also get Brave and the Bold when we're referring to Batman and Superman when it's not World's Finest. But all that said, that's the second time I've said that, so I'm gonna try to make sure I don't say it anymore. But Brave and the Bold, we get Robin finally. It's a Batman and Robin movie. James Gunn did confirm that he's going to cast a young Robin. He's supposed to be around 10 years old. Uh, Problem I have with that is the Robin that we're getting isn't Dick Grayson. It's not Jason Todd, and it's not Tim Drake, my favorite Robin. It is Damian Wayne, who is my least favorite Robin. So I get another Batman who's older. I get Robin, who's the age he's supposed to be, but it's my least favorite Robin. And I'm going to just wait and see what happens because I have no idea what this is going to look like. I don't know how light-hearted they will make it. I know that James Gunn really likes the Batman and Robin stories that feature Damian Wayne. I have thoughts about that, but I'll hold those thoughts for another time. I think that if you're going to cast a kid to be him, you need to cast somebody who's at least half Middle Eastern because Damien technically is Middle Eastern, like his mom is, Ra's al Ghul is, or sorry, Raish is Middle Eastern, Talia is Middle Eastern, Bruce is white. So like you need somebody to fill that gap. And I think that if James Gunn wants to be conscious of what he's doing to these characters in these films, he should definitely be casting accordingly. So we'll see if that happens. I hope that Robert Pattinson's Batman movies don't get undercut because of this. How serious is this Batman going to be? How serious is Robin going to be? How much of an asshole is Damian going to be? Also, because we know that the Superman story that we're getting is a young Superman in his 20s, but we're getting a Batman who's old enough to have a 10-year-old, that means we don't have Jonathan Kent, Superboy, which sucks because we won't get Super Sons, which also sucks. But the biggest problem I have with all of these movies is they don't seem very connected. I thought that James Gunn said the plan was to have these movies be connected like Marvel's movies and shows are connected. But like you got a young Superman, an older Batman, random Supergirl, Swamp Thing's on the side. You got a Lantern show that's on the side, Booster Gold's showing up, Waller's doing some fucking Waller shit on the side. Like, how do these link up? How do they match up? How are they on the same timeline? Like, when we get the Superman story, is at the beginning of the timeline, and then when we get Batman Brave and the Bold, it's at the end of the timeline, and we got to keep watching movies until they link up in the middle. Like, what the fuck is happening? It doesn't make any sense, and I need it to make sense because we were promised that the new slate of DC movies would be something that makes sense, and it fucking doesn't right now. And that's an issue for me because that's the whole. And it's not a reboot; it's a soft reboot. We're keeping James Gunn characters, but we're getting rid of everyone else. I don't know. I know that James Gunn also came out and said that this is just the first half of the first slate. He'll release the second half of the second slate later. I'm assuming we'll get that at like Comic-Con this summer. I don't know. Maybe they'll do DC Fandom again. I have no idea. But this isn't it's a lot of information, but it's also nothing. There were no logos, no casting. Like we literally don't have anything. He just gave us some cliff notes on some shit. And I'm just like, bro, what the fuck? We need more than this. This isn't cutting it. But those are my quick thoughts about all of the DC
Not
news.
so quick.
I need more. What's that?
Not so quick.
Not so quick. Yeah, not so quick. But those are my thoughts. There's a lot going on. I'm hoping that we get some clarification on a lot of things coming up in the next few months, and we'll see what happens, man. I'm just going to wait and see who they cast, see what these stories are going to be, see if they actually link up, because right now nobody's the same age, nobody's in the same timeline. I don't know. So we'll see.
Yep. We will see. All right. Well, that brings us to, wow, we've almost done a full podcast, and we're just now getting to the meat and potatoes. Meat and potatoes. And that would be Last of Us Episode 3. I'm going to let Christian get right into it. I'm going to say one thing because I have some notes that we'll talk about. Would you like me to go through the notes real quick and then let you do your breakdown?
Do your thing, bro. Let's hear it.
Okay. So when it comes to episodes for TV, this is a fucking great episode for TV. This is just a great episode in general. This episode is extremely emotional. It is, if you're a fan of the game, such as myself, it is a big deviation from the game. And I can talk about that briefly. So pretty much in the game, you don't really see Frank. You don't know Frank as a character. Bill and Frank are partners. But in the game, Frank actually hates Bill and has went out. Frank gets bit in the game. All this is in the game. He gets bit, infected, all that stuff, and he pretty much commits suicide, and then Joel and stuff find him. So that's about the extent of the Bill-Frank relationship. It's mentioned briefly. It's not in-depth. They deviated on the show. They go into the relationship, kind of showing how people have evolved and, like, moved through time and, like, aged through time with everything going on. And it gives you more depth on Bill as a character and Frank. It's beautiful. Like, god dang, dude. It's so nice. Nick Offerman.
Good way to put it. God dang. It's a great way to put it, to be honest.
He crushes it. He is such a good Bill to me. He's very survivalist.
Talking about Nick Offerman?
Yes. He's very survivalist. He's also very awkward, socially awkward, and like withdrawn from people. And I love it. I love how he played it. Adding Frank in, I thought was just a good episode. Because The Last of Us, yes, is a zombie-ish movie or show. Like, it's a horror thing. But The Last of Us, essentially, if you've ever listened to anything about Neil Druckerman said or any of them, it's more than that. It's about love. It's about relationships. It's about all this thriving, after the fact. Like, the backdrop is the apocalypse and the clickers and the infection and all that, but it's about these relationships with these people. And we will have many more as we go through the show if they do the game justice. Sam and Henry, Christian, coming up. Oh, God. I'm sure it has to be this season. But, God. Okay, quick notes. So, at one point, Frank is wearing a green plaid shirt, which then at the end of the show, Joel is wearing. This is the shirt that Joel wears in the game. I thought that was cool. The window shots, again, in this episode. We've talked about it, menu for The Last of Us. I love those. Let's see. So, Bill and Frank were together around 16 years. We get a little depth on, like, their time frame. And in comparison, Joel and Tess were about 13-ish. Maybe more, maybe, well, it couldn't really be less because they were together then. So, at least 13 years. Joel and Ellie's dialogue about Tess later in the episode and the trip coming up are very, very similar to the game, which I loved.
It's almost verbatim.
Yeah, it really is. One thing they changed that I know Christian would appreciate. So in the game, and this is my last note, and I have other stuff to kind of throw in while Christian's talking and going through it. At the beginning of the show, they go into, and I cannot remember the store's name, but it is an actual store. It's like a grocery store, Christian. You know what I'm talking about? At the very beginning, where Joel is picking up supplies. They loot in the show, which if you played the game, there's a lot of looting, like survival horror games. You loot stuff. So I thought that was cool. And Ellie gets very excited about Mortal Kombat 2 and Melina, and she starts talking about Melina's finisher. This is a little different. I love the fact that it's Mortal Kombat because I'm a big Mortal Kombat fan. But in the game, I believe the game is called The Turning, and instead of Melina, it's Angel Knives, I think. And the finisher, instead of like pulling her mask down and having the teeth and all that stuff, like she talks about the finisher that Angel Knives does is she punches a hole through her enemy's chest and beheads them with a single kick. So similar thing, but yeah, there was a nice little Easter egg there, and I'm gonna step off my soapbox and let Christian go in. But I can't say enough. I've literally watched this episode, no joke, probably 3 times since it come out. Just because, like, I watched it and I was like, damn, that was really good. And then I kept thinking about it and I watched it again and I was like, damn, that's really good. Like, it just, I don't know. Nothing but praise for the actors. I'm drawing a blank on Frank right now. Nick Offerman is Bill. Murray Bartlett is Frank. And
they're like overnight sensations because of this episode.
I
mean, Nick Offerman was already
Yeah.
a sensation for being Ron Swanson.
I was excited for him in general when they cast him. I was like, oh shit. But the way he plays it, and I will say one thing before you go in, there's a line when Ellie's reading a note that Bill left where he goes something about setting off my traps. He goes, hee. If you play the games, I was like, damn, that's Bill. But Bill is a weird, paranoid, like, I don't know. That's Bill to like perfectly. But yeah. Damn, that was a good episode. All right, Christian, let's deep dive. Are you ready?
Yeah, this episode ready? Yeah, for sure. This episode was definitely the best episode so far this season. I only watched it the one time with my fiance because I emotionally could only handle watching this episode the one time. Like, I just needed a break. Like, I was sad for the rest of the night after watching that. But I mean, it was a happy sad, if that makes sense.
Did you so when you watch, do you watch after the episode ends, like usually Neil Druckerman and I keep forgetting the director, showrunner's name. They talk about the episode a little bit?
Yeah. I typically don't watch that part.
Well, Neil said, like, with us, like, deviation, when do you deviate and when do you stay true? And he's like, if it's the same, you know, as the stuff, or if it's not better than the game, don't deviate. But if it helps the story and it's better than the game, that's when I chose to deviate and, like, move from what we originally had. And he said this was obviously better. Because Bill's... Yeah, okay, go ahead. I'll keep that to the end.
So, yeah, this is definitely the best episode so far. You're gonna be hard pressed doing better than this episode.
It makes you have allergies.
I don't care. Right. I don't care what anybody says, man. Like, if you watch this episode and you're pissed off that it's different from the game, then like you clearly aren't a fan of media in general, because there are parts of the game that are told very well. The whole game is told very well, but it's also a game. You know, you're playing as these characters. You essentially become these characters until you complete the game, right? So you have more time and it's a little bit more intimate. But when you're outside of that aspect and you are playing it, you want to know as much as you can about the world and the people and the relationships and the motivations. That's how television works. That's how movies work. So just going in, if you think that this was just okay, if you didn't think that this was better than the game, then you should really start thinking about what it is you're looking for in entertainment, because this episode was goated, bro. This is fantastic. This is the kind of fucking television that I want in my life, that I want in my future. This is the kind of television that I want my son to come to me about. Like, Dad, have you seen Last of Us? No, what's that? Oh my God, we're not going to talk about it. We're just going to watch it. Let's go. Like, that's what I'm talking about, because it reminds me of when I was younger and I used to talk to my friends about shows like this on the bus from school or during class or during lunchtime in the cafeteria, like whatever. But to get back on track, let's get into it. The episode starts 10 miles west outside of Boston, and it's clearly like the day after Tess's death. We see that Joel stacks stones. I forget what that's called. It's like the trail marker. It's like a burial mound that he's made for Tess, and you also see him leaving his hand in the water to kind of heal a little bit longer, because he smashed his hand on that guy's face in episode 1. So his hand's still pretty jacked up from that, and I like that they are showing you that even though this is a show, it's as realistic as it can be, because you don't just, get a bruised fist and then the very next episode you're fine. So I really enjoy that. I like that because we even saw that the last two episodes with Tess, where she had a black eye. The entire time we saw Tess, she had a black eye, right? So I like that because it's continuity and it makes sense for the story. Moving on, we see that there are three things I noticed in the first scene here. We see three examples of Joel carrying his trauma with him. One, that bruised hand that he got from the first episode. Two, I think it's called a Karen or a Kareen. I think it's called a Karen, but it's the funeral mound. That's the second part. And then the third part is his broken watch. So you get his bruised hand that he got from protecting Ellie. You get the funeral mound that he has because the person that he cared about the most in this world now has just died. And then you have his broken watch, which is a constant reminder of his daughter, Sarah. So I really like them showing us the trifecta of trauma, is what I'm calling it for right now. Then we see that Ellie stands up to Joel and pretty much tells him that nobody made him take this job. Him and Tess chose to take the job and not to blame her for something that's not her fault. And I really like that about Ellie's character. I really liked Bella Ramsey's performance in this. It made a lot of sense. And even Joel was like, he didn't say anything, but he gave her the approval father nod that you get, you know? And I really like that. So we got the bullshit out of the way right off the gate. And I really like that we're not in a lesser drama. Joel will be carrying that with him for half the fucking season, and we would just see how mad he is at Ellie for Tess's death, which isn't Ellie's fault because if anything, Ellie also got bit. So I really liked seeing that, and that shows me that the writers are paying attention, they give a shit, and they're letting us know that they're not taking the easy route. So I really applaud them for that. Next, Ellie asks if Bill and Frank are nice, and Joel replies, Frank is. And I really like that because if you're a fan of the game, you know that that's pretty fucking true. Then we see that Ellie is eyeing Joel's gun, which happens quite a few times in this episode. Um, she also asked if, because there's only two of them, if she could have a gun, and Joel cuts her off before she even finishes the fucking sentence and tells her no, absolutely not. So I thought that was funny. And at the abandoned gas station, before Ellie finds she finds the arcade, which is MK2, which you just explained. So I won't even go into that. You were correct, though. It was called The Turning, and her friend that she keeps mentioning that knew everything about the game was Riley. We know that because we played the game. And Riley was mentioned briefly in episode 1. So we do have that.
That'll be a fun flashback when we finally get to see Riley. That'll be.
I'm very excited to see that.
That's going to tug at some heartstrings.
Absolutely so. So Ellie does what teenagers do, which is exactly what you tell them not to do. And she goes traveling essentially in this abandoned gas station or corner store, whatever it was. And she scores a box of tampons, which I thought was really funny because I was actually just asking, when we were watching the episode, I asked my fiance, I was like, dude, I couldn't imagine what it would be like to be a woman in a post-apocalyptic time because, like, having a period during this time would be, like, even more of a pain than it already is. And then they had pretty much addressed it right there in the show where Ellie finds tampons and thought it was awesome.
That's something like, I feel like they're doing a really good job of, like, questions that people normally wouldn't think about watching like something like this, like a little later on, like the hot water and stuff like that. My wife a few times has said, if I was them, I would do this. And then not long after that happens, I'm like, it's like they're understanding like what the common person's like. If I'm in the apocalypse, I'm gonna do this. If that's, you know. So I think they're doing a good job of like the little things like that, just throwing those attention to detail that's like driving it home.
Yeah, clearly in the writer's room, somebody asked real life questions.
Which is good. It's very good.
Yeah, we as fans appreciate those questions. Moving on, Ellie does find infected crushed beneath a bunch of like debris, and it can't move. So she does something very, very just weird for me, but it also makes sense for this version of Ellie's character, and she takes out her handy dandy switchblade and cuts this creature, opens it up a little bit to see the fungus kind of growing inside of its body, and you barely see any blood come out when it
Yeah.
gets cut as well. And then after she kind of stares at it a while, she just stabs him in the brain, kills it, and then goes upstairs and pretends like nothing happened. Doesn't tell Joel. We just never talk about it again. So I thought that that was crazy. And kudos to them for keeping that continuity. When she does cut into it and you see inside, it looks the same as that autopsy that happened in the previous episode with the doctor in Jakarta. So I really like that. Um, they see a downed plane, and Joel leaves behind his rifle. And he pretty much tells Ellie, like, it has such low ammo, it's kind of a burden to bring with us. It doesn't make any sense. Which I agree with. Like, if you have
Yeah.
this big ass heavy gun and it barely has any ammo, you're wasting your time. You do better just having a bat at this point. So yeah, that I really did appreciate that part of a part of the story. And as much as Joel pretends to not like Ellie, he did try to protect her from seeing all those dead bodies right after this scene. And you know, she was Ellie and does her fucking thing because she's a teenager and had to go see it anyway. Um, and I really like that part. And then during that, we get a flashback to September 30th, 2003.
Well,
4
before
days
that, they talk
before
about the
the Austin.
infection. She asked like how it happened. Somebody bites somebody, or like,
Mhm.
and kind of like
Was it
takes a stab
monkeys?
at Fedra schools and is like, they don't teach us that shit. And it's
That's
like, it
right.
was a monkey, wasn't it? Which there's monkeys play a part in the game later on. Like monkeys are used for things. You see some in damn, what is that place called? Whatever. But later on in the game, monkeys are being tested for the cure. That's how they're seeing if the cure works that they're trying to make. They're testing it on monkeys.
It reminds me of a comic that I really, really enjoy. But I think I told you to read a few times called Why the Last Man.
Called what?
They also made that it's called Why the Last Man, like the letter Y, the last man. And it's about some virus that people catch, and all the men in the world die. Anything with a Y chromosome immediately dies, except for one guy named Yorick and his pet monkey. That kind of reminds me. When you were saying that, reminded me of that story. That comic is really good, by the way. It's one of my favorite non superhero comics of all
Stupid
time. It's
question.
really, really good. Yeah.
Uh, didn't the virus spread in 28 days later from monkeys?
Yes.
Okay. I was thinking
That
about
rage
that when she
wave.
brought up it's monkeys. I was like, are we talking about 28 days later? And then I thought about the end of the game, and I was like, okay. My mind was going like all kinds of directions off of like a small thing. But essentially, Joel breaks down what happened from his knowledge perspective of, obviously he doesn't say like Jakarta and all this stuff. He's just like, this is,
Yeah. He
the
he
long short
tells
of
us
it.
about eating, probably flour, eating anything like that, cookies, pancakes, and stuff. Or when he says pancakes, he stops because
Yeah.
he's thinking
That
about
hit me when he
how
said
they were
pancakes. It was
supposed to
like,
make it.
I wanted pancakes. Pancakes
I'm
are
not gonna
forever
lie though, when
tainted.
he said pancakes, it just made me want to eat
Oh,
pancakes.
Christian,
So
good God.
I might have pancakes in my future here very soon. We'll see what
Jesus.
happens. Moving on. I really liked the swerve that they gave us when they showed us the clothing of these people who were clearly killed um, in the past, and then they kind of give us the flashback of the woman and her baby, and I'm like, oh man, I don't want to see these people die. But we kind of cut off, and that's when we meet Bill, because Bill, his house is being raided by Fedra, and we see that he has a basement hidden within his basement. So I thought that was really cool. He's got like a little bat cave down there. It's got a bunch of weapons.
I want a bat cave.
It's a whole armory. Yeah, he's got a whole armory. It looks like the Punisher setup. It's very similar actually to the Punisher setup. He also has cameras set up everywhere. And once the town is completely evacuated, Bill just kind of starts living fucking life. He goes to every store he needs to go to. He loads up on gas. He gets a bunch of parts. He goes to Home Depot, and I realized that Home Depot has the old school Home Depot logo that they had in the 2000s. So I thought that
Yep.
was really funny because I've forgotten about that until I saw the show. But yeah, man, it's really cool seeing all that stuff. And Bill is Ron Swanson, bro. Just imagine Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec if there were no Leslie Knope, if a global pandemic happened, killed a bunch of people, and he happened to be gay. That's exactly what the character was, and I really, really enjoyed that. It was fantastic. He's a survivalist, and I really liked seeing all of that. And then when we first see him, he has the gas mask on, like he does in the game.
Yes,
So that's awesome.
that was awesome.
I really like those little it's the little things that we really care about, man. But anyway, like I said, he's stockpiling stuff. He's prepared. He's got booby traps all over his property. He cooks himself really nice food. He's got a giant generator that's fully gassed up all the time.
His
He's got
steak he
power.
makes, the first thing he's cooking, looked so
Mhm.
good. Like my mouth was watering. I was like,
Yes,
God, I want some of that.
it looked fan fucking tastic. Yes, it
And he
did.
always has
I
like a
agree.
nice wine. He stocked up on wine. Very smart for the apocalypse. If we're gonna bunker down, get that wine. Get them drinks.
Yeah, man. Keep that liver and kidneys going. And it was really just really cool to see. We just see how he's been living this entire time. Then we cut to while this is happening. I meant to say, uh, while he's doing the montage of him like booby trapping the property and getting all his supplies and whatnot and cooking for himself and enjoying his life with no people, they're playing '60s songs, and I thought that was cool because if you remember from episode one with the smuggler's code, '60s means 60 means nothing new, I believe. '70s was something's in, and then '80s was trouble. So I thought that was really cool to see that. And this episode, I forgot to mention, is called Long, Long Time, which will come into play later on.
Yep.
Then we skip to 4 years later in 2007, and we enter Frank. You already talked about Frank's character in the game, so I won't dwell on that. But Frank was en route to Boston, which is the same as the game, which, yes. But he got caught in one of Bill's booby traps. So he tests him to make sure that he's not infected. And then we see how distrustful Bill is of Frank when they first meet. He's super awkward. But he clearly likes Frank. Very clearly likes Frank. He's awkward because he likes Frank, but he's also not used to people because he's been legitimately alone for 4 fucking years. And then we see that Bill plays Linda Ronstadt's Long, Long Time, which is the name of the episode. And Frank asks who's the girl that he's singing about. And to that he replies, there is no girl. And this is when we get the difference from the game, when we see that they're clearly gay. That's what he means by partners. And, they go to bed together, man. They have a really nice, tender moment, and it's awesome. He tells them to
Which
go
it's
take a
insinuated
shower.
in
They
the
get all
game.
cleaned
Like
up.
you kind of take that there because I feel like there's a magazine or something too that's like I don't know. Like there's hints throughout it that pretty much are like confirming they're gay.
Mm-hmm. But I really enjoyed. I loved it, man. It was.
When
This is one of the healthiest relationships I've ever seen in any type of drama like this, especially with it being a queer couple. It's so fucking healthy and nice, and I just loved seeing that. Like, goddamn, why can't we have more of this? This is great. Anyway, though, moving on.
Nick Offerman playing that song was beautiful, by the way. Like, just a very emotional, the way he played it and sang it, and like for Frank was really, really like catching the feels.
I agree 100%. Like, throughout this episode, I was feeling all kinds of feelings that men should never feel because we're men. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Totally kidding.
So,
Man.
jumping forward after you said they have their intimate moment, it then transitions, scene change to fighting, busting out the door. Frank's pissed, and it's like you said, it's a healthy relationship. Like they're very intimate and it's very loving and like, you know.
Yeah, it's 2010 when we see this. They're both fighting.
Yep.
And it's because Bill doesn't want Frank to use supplies up to soup up some of their surroundings. He doesn't want it to be colorful and nice.
Management, which is something Bill, I believe, talks about in the game. Like he's very, very conscious of being a survivalist and being what Bill is.
Yeah, very much so. Which is what they tried to make Laurie Strode be in Halloween 2018.
Oh, we're not going on that. Stay off that street.
Already did it.
Stay off that
All right,
street.
moving on. um, then we see that Frank really gets Bill out of his shell a lot. Like I really like that healthiness of that relationship. Yes, they argue, but what couple doesn't argue? So it
Mm-hmm.
makes perfect sense. And their fight was pretty short lived. The part that really pisses Bill off is that Frank drops that he met a nice lady on the radio and they're gonna have them come over for dinner or whatever, and he's like, "You did what?" So he's so pissed off about it, and I thought that was hilarious. And then we see that the nice lady he was talking to on the radio was Tess. So we get a nice little, I guess it's a nice dinner, and it's Tess and Joel, Frank and Bill, and Bill has a gun on Joel like the whole dinner.
I love Joel's response. He's just like, "Mm-hmm. I do the same. I understand."
He's
Like
like,
he just
I
keeps
get
eating.
it.
He's like, "Yeah."
Because he was like, dude, like we haven't had a meal like this pretty much ever. So yeah, I love it. He's like, you can keep your gun in my face if you want to. But then when they start talking business is when he tells Bill to get the fucking gun out of his face so they can talk business. And I really like that. Joel stands up for himself. And Joel and Bill are obviously very much alphas with, and you see that in their relationship, and it's really funny to see. But it's really funny too because both of these alphas have somebody who is the complete opposite of them that completely mellows them out immediately. So no matter what Bill is doing, Frank is there to get him level. And then no matter what Joel wants to do, of all people, Tess can just essentially point him in the right direction all the time. She's the only person that he will listen to. So I think that that's awesome. And it makes her passing in the last episode even more hurtful because you see how much they meant to each other, even though Joel never,
Quick
said
note
anything
about
about it.
Tess's passing. It's super crazy, but a week, well, I guess days after the episode aired where Tess passed in the show, the actress that played Tess in the video game actually passed away, losing her fight to cancer.
Wasn't that shit insane, bro?
It's
I
like
wasn't
she
even going to
passed away in
bring
the
that
show,
up,
and then
but
right
yeah.
after, I was like, damn. But super sad about that. Saw a lot of them talking about it and sharing fond memories with her.
Yeah. Um, let's see, where was I in these notes here?
The dinner.
Joel tells Bill how they can help each other, and he starts talking to him about his fence. He's like that fence has a year tops. He pretty much tells him he can get him 10 aluminum spools that will last him for the rest of his life. But then he corrects himself and he says lives because he's pretty much telling Bill to think about Frank as well. Yeah, you can be closed off, but we really need to help each other out because we're all we've got. Essentially, is what he's saying. So I like that. And then we learn later that they end up trading for like medicine and bullets and guns and shit like that. So it's awesome to see that. And I thought that was it's just cool. It's the little things, like I keep saying, man, the little things that we pay attention to that we really like in this shit. Then before they leave, uh, Joel definitely warns Bill about the Raiders. He was like, Raiders are going to come here. They're going to come at night when you're asleep. They're going to come when you can't see them, and they're going to try to kill you and take all your shit. Like, he pretty much tells them exactly what's going on. Um, and we see that Test is gifted with jeans and a purple shirt. Remember what I said earlier about people wearing purple around Joel? If they weren't purple, it's somebody that he gives a shit about. So that proves my point, listeners, watchers. That proves my point. So I thought that was really cool. And then after that, we see that it is 2013, 3 years later, and Bill struggles to keep up with Frank at this point when they're out running and whatnot because he's getting older and weaker and tired. And then we see that Frank surprises Bill with strawberries. And he says that he got the strawberry seeds from Joel and Tess, and he traded them for one of Bill's guns, which he gets pissed off about and asks which one, and he tells him it was a little gun, don't worry about it. So I thought that was really funny. And it's really cool too because Bill has so many fucking guns, he can't use them all. So it makes perfect sense for Frank to be trading some of his guns on the side. So I would have done the same thing if I wanted to eat more shit. It makes sense. After that, they have another lovely little scene which shows you their relationship more so, and it's just like I said, super fucking healthy and nice. And
The way it's
then
shot
we
to
get
the cinematography
exactly.
is really good in this episode.
What?
The cinematography, like the way they use light and different things, like the contrast and all, is really good in this episode.
Mm-hmm. Oh, another thing that Bill says that was really touching was, "I was never afraid until you showed up," which is essentially telling us that he wasn't afraid to die, wasn't afraid of what's going on in the world. None of that, nothing bothered him until he met Frank and then had somebody to care about and protect, and now he's always worried about everything. So I thought that that was also another very sweet moment between these two characters. I have to plug this up before my computer dies. There we go, back in it. Moving on. Right after that, it's the dead of night, like just like Joel said, and we have the Raiders attacking their property. And Frank wakes up to explosions and fire, and he sees that Bill is out there by himself trying to keep their home safe. And as soon as Frank gets his attention, Bill gets shot. Frank rushes him back home to take care of his wound, and then he lets Frank know to keep the gas on because the fence will take care of the rest of the Raiders, which it does. And I thought that was really funny. I was like, damn, your fence is so fortified. It's out here burning people alive, electrocuting people, shooting people. Like, you're good to go. And then because Bill thinks that he's dying, he tells Frank to call Joel because he can't be alone and that Joel will take care of him. And I was like, God damn, bro, everybody thinks of Joel as this protector type character. But when he said that, I also thought, not only does he think Joel will take care of him, Joel is the only person that Bill respects on the same level as him. That's why he tells call Joel. It's really cool. Call Joel. He's the only person that I know that will do the same thing I would do, which is to fuck people up. So I thought that was awesome. And it was really tender. And we get a fake out because, as you know, Bill doesn't die here. And we skip forward again to 2023, present day, 10 years later. And Frank is in a wheelchair. He paints a lot now. Frank is very sick with an unknown illness. I think it's one of two things. It's either ALS or it's cancer. I think cancer is the
well, I don't think it's cancer because they will not confirm what it is. Everything we've tried to find out too, because the missus was just like you. She thought cancer. It's one of two things, but they're not going into detail. It's either ALS or it's MS, I believe.
It could also be, yeah. I mean,
so it's
I was
one of
thinking
those.
ALS. I didn't really think MS, but that makes a lot of sense. Why do you think it's not cancer that they say?
The writer said they kind of
that.
ruled it out. They were just like,
I wonder why that is.
I don't know why they narrowed it to like those two, but they didn't go into detail why it's any of those. They were just like, we're not going to dwell on the disease. Just know he has like a, what is it, like a neurological whatever muscle thing, that's making him like that. That's debilitating him pretty much. So they just wanted to leave it at that. Because she thought cancer too, and I was like, I mean, honestly, it could be any of them if you've ever seen anybody with that, like any of those diseases. So she also thought Parkinson's because of the way the painting. If you notice, his paint is like real, like where he's got normal paints, he kind of like it's like he's struggling or he's shaking to get it. So I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that actually does make a lot of sense too. I totally get that. And see, that's why it's cool to talk about these kind of shows because sometimes I didn't really think too hard about it because I was just thinking of so many other things. So that made a lot of sense. And it's cool that you guys were talking about it as well. Like,
yeah, like we sit here and discuss like a lot of times, like maybe I'll say something about like, oh, that's in the game or something during it, but then after the show, usually we'll like discuss it. We'll start talking about it. Or like days later, she'll bring up something and be like, what about this in the show? And then we'll start talking. She's into it hardcore, like just like most of the world right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes perfect sense. So after this, we see that Frank kind of like we see how Bill takes care of Frank and what that means and what that is for their relationship. And kind of skipping around just a little bit, Frank essentially asks Bill for one more good day, which would be his last day. They have a whole plan to have the best day they can have, eat all this stuff, and then crush up a bunch of pills, take them, and then pass. And then as peacefully as possible. So Bill, excuse me, breaks down here, like full on breaks down. This is when we see him at his most emotional, and he's crying, and he's like, "I can't do it." Stuff. It is designed to jack you up. Like this scene will make the toughest person in the world feel so small because
They
it
they
is
do a
sad.
great job
It's so
selling
powerful.
it and bringing it all to life. Like, I cannot give enough praise to those two, to Murray and to Nick.
They did a
It got
great
me
job, man.
when they're doing all that. He's like, I can't pretend every day was great. He's like, there was some really shitty
Yeah.
days and like bad days, and like, I had bad days with you. Like any relationship, like Christian said, like it's a very honest, real relationship. He's like, I had bad days with you, but I have more good days than bad days. And I was just like, damn,
Yeah.
that's it. Like, that whole scene is very strong. And then I love how it ends because he's like, so you can start by you make me some breakfast. I want some toast. Like, go cook me some food. Which
We
Bill
do know that
laughs.
Bill can cook, man. He can
Yeah,
cook.
Bill's food does
So,
look so good.
right? Wouldn't you love to have dinner
I
at
did.
their
I was like,
house? That'd
man,
be
I want to
great.
go eat at Bill's on the apocalypse. Give me some of that rabbit, Bill.
Yeah, Bill, let me get that rabbit,
Pair it
Bill.
with a nice wine. Like, Bill. Dude, they're literally
And he
living a
knows how to
life of
pair.
luxury in the apocalypse.
Crazy.
Like, you look at what
Never
everyone
really
else is
think
going
about it.
through, and he has running hot water, electricity. They're making nice ass food. They're growing their own like, they have everything. They're self sustainable. Like, they're living like a normal life for all intensive purposes.
Then we see that they have breakfast. They go out that day. They get married. They have the same dinner that they had the first day that they met each other, which I thought was very sweet. Then Frank drinks the wine laced with a lethal dose of medicine, and Bill doesn't tell him that he has also consumed the wine.
I mean,
Uh,
you could
he
kind of tell right
he
away
figures it
because
out.
Frank like gulps it down, right? And then
Mhm.
immediately, as soon as Frank finishes, Bill like downs his whole glass. I was like, Bill did some shit. Like, you could tell, like, he just drank that
Mhm.
way too quick immediately after, almost like you would do like a shot.
Exactly. He does do that, and man, it's crazy because Frank knows that Bill did something. He was like, he pretty much calls him out, like, was it in yours too? And he was like, enough to kill a horse, is what he says. And then Bill tells Frank essentially like, I'm satisfied. He says, you're my purpose. And then Frank asks him to take him to bed. He said, I should be furious, but that was really romantic. So he rolls him into the bedroom
If
and
you were in Bill's shoes, would you have done the same thing though, Christian?
100%,
I mean,
not without
he says that
question.
I'm old, I'm satisfied. You're my purpose. If you're going, what do I have to be here?
Exactly. I would do
I
the
mean,
same thing,
yeah,
no questions asked, man.
yeah.
Not yeah. So all I can say about that is goddamn. It was great. And obviously it's not in the game. We talked about that, but it was fantastic and I loved it. Then we fast forward to Joel and Ellie's arrival. We notice that the flowers are dead and all the stuff that Bill typically takes care of is no longer taken care of. So Joel knows what's going on. Um, and before he gets into the bedroom with them, um, a door slams and we see that Ellie has the letter. Joel doesn't want to read it, and we know he doesn't want to read it because he's emotional right now because these are the last people that he knew that he liked that are gone and now gone. And Ellie starts to read the letter for him, and I'm not going to read the entire letter, but I did write down the who it was addressed to, and it said to whomever, but probably Joel. And then you see like you see the bag with the crushed pills and their dinner they had out that night and everything, the candles that were all burnt out that they didn't blow out, all that stuff. And in the letter, Bill alludes to Tess being the thing in Joel's life that makes it worth living. But because Tess literally just passed the day before this, Ellie can't finish reading the letter, so Bill reads it to himself. He tells Ellie to stay there, and he goes outside to fucking break down emotionally. But Joel does what Joel does best, and he starts to have a breakdown, but then he bottles the fuck out of it, compartmentalizes it, and then continues with the job because that's what Joel does. So it's really sad to see him not even be able to have a moment because he feels like he can't. But anyway, because he's balling up those feelings, and you know, he's read this letter, he balls it up just like Bill does in the game. He balls up the letter from Frank the same way. So I thought that was a nice touch there. And he almost shows emotion, man. Like I said, almost does. But we see that Bill left a key, which is the key to his truck, a blue Chevy. It's the same Chevy from the game. Joel wants to see. He wants to see Ellie's scar again from the Byte to see if it's had any change, which it doesn't. And then this is when they have the super quick conversation. We don't talk about tests ever. Our past stays to ourselves. We don't need to talk about it, and you will do whatever I tell you when I tell you to do it. And those are the rules, essentially. So after that, he tells her that they're going to find Tommy in Wyoming because he used to be a Firefly, and he probably knows where to get them to the next point so that he can finish his mission. Then Joel takes a shower because Ellie pretty much tells him that he has to. And I like that about her. She finds a gun hidden and doesn't say anything about it, puts it in her backpack and never brings it up again, which obviously is going to come up. But really quick, I wanted to touch on this. Because Ellie has taken a shower now, she has changed clothes, and the shirt that she has on now is her shirt from the game.
Similar to Joel's shirt
I was super... And the shirt that he has on. So they both are now wearing their clothes from the game. And I thought that was awesome just to see that, because that's something that fans of the source material like to see. You know, you want to see Harry Potter with his scar and his glasses. You want to see Batman with his cowl. You want to and the bat symbol on his chest. You want to see Superman with the S and the cape and the red boots and all that. Like, those are staples that you have to have for these characters, and showing them in their original outfits from the game is awesome. So that for me, that meant a lot. Then we see that this is her first time in a truck. She doesn't know what a seatbelt is. She doesn't know truck etiquette at all. She thinks it looks like a spaceship, which is a nice nod to the game, because in the game, I think it's in Last of Us 2, he gets her a gift or whatever. We'll go into it later on. We won't get into it here because I don't want to spoil too much for the future. But in the game, we already said that Joel and Ellie meet Bill because they get caught, or Joel gets caught in one of his traps. And I think that's the trap where you're upside down. You have to shoot all the infected while you're upside down. I died on that part like 2 or 3 times. I'm not going to lie. It sucked. And Bill does mention that he had a partner once, but he's gone now or whatever. And it's because they found Frank, who hung himself it's crazy. We already got into it, but it's a lot of differences in the game, but this is much better in my opinion than the game. I like this a lot more. I think the story means a lot more. I think it means a lot more for couples in drama. I think it means a lot for the LGBTQ plus community in drama. Like, this is exciting shit here, and the episode speaks for itself, dude. Like, it was fucking dope. It was great. Mm-hmm. But man, it was fantastic, dude. Like, that's essentially the episode. They drive off, and then if you've played the game, which we have, we already know what's about to happen in this truck. So I'm excited to see that scene because that's one of my favorite scenes from the game that I can remember off the top of my head right now. But yeah, man, that's The Last of Us episode 3. Long time.
Yes, sir.
And you guys already know my overall thoughts. You know Sin's overall thoughts. Like, watch it. It's fantastic.
Watch thing on the game. Like I said earlier, little things. Like Christian said, whenever they take a shower, they change clothes. It was funny before Ellie said something about taking a shower. Miss Sin just kept saying, "If I was them and there's running hot water, I'm taking a damn shower. Like, I'm taking a long hot shower before I do anything." And she kept harping. She's like, "I would take a shower." Then they take a shower, and she was like, "Yes." Like, people are thinking like me, so she was super excited about that. And I've said it a couple times already, but Nick Offerman, Murray Bartlett, both middle-aged straight men, I believe, just absolutely crushed it. Like, I cannot give them enough praise. They did a fantastic job showing a beautiful, healthy relationship and just adding a lot of depth and stuff to the show. Like, I don't know. I love the episode. I think it was fantastic. And it and the first episode are right up there together. This one I love the first episode because it's the prologue to Last of Us, and they did a great job with it. This one was just fantastic TV. Like, it was just absolutely wonderful, and I think it does add a lot. Yes, it's different than the game, but it's adding a lot of humanity and depth and stuff to the show that I think is really good. And it doesn't really matter, those that get mad, because you know what? Bill survives in the game, but I'm pretty sure we don't see Bill ever again in the whole damn game. Like, that's it for Bill. So what you do right here, it doesn't matter. So, yeah. There you go. But that's it for this episode. It's time, boys and girls, that we
pass the whiskey
and get ready for last call. And I believe Christian has a last call question with his dreadlocks of wisdom.
Dude, I gotta go and find it real quick because I wrote it down somewhere.
You know what? If Christian would have had his
whiskey
ready, then we would have had this Christian ready. But it's over there.
Man, we would have. But you know what? This is what happened. I decided that I wanted to make both of our lives extremely difficult. I have a couple.
Oh God!
You know what? I don't have. I have one.
Oh God!
I have one.
Okay.
And I know that we kind of talked about this before, but we didn't talk about it as like a last call question.
No.
My question is this: what movie or show made you fall in love with horror? What was the thing that got you into the genre? You were like, you know what? This is it. This is me.
Damn, that's a good question.
Yes,
Movie or show? Can
It could be a book, whatever.
Yeah,
whatever
I was gonna say,
it
can I
was
say a
that got
book?
you. Yeah, absolutely.
Goosebumps. R.L. Stein Goosebumps.
Goosebumps.
So,
Okay.
for me, as a young child, like most children, parents would be like, you're going to have nightmares, don't watch scary stuff. Most parents and stuff, that's what you hear. And, you'd still sneak and watch it because you're a little shit and you're a kid, and that's what you do. But I remember I read so many R.L. Stein Goosebumps books. We used to have, like, book fairs, and I'd always get them, and I would order, because that's before the days of Amazon and the stuff we have now. You get like a little magazine and you do all these things, or you go to a bookstore and you get those. I went through so many Goosebump books reading those. Scary stories, Tell in the Dark. I used to get those at book fair and go through them. And then what made me fall in love with Universal monsters at a young age, I don't know if Christian's ever seen these before. Our library in the school actually had like picture books of the Universal monsters with like pretty much like a breakdown Cliff Notes version. Obviously, it wouldn't be like the long, lengthy novel of the movie, but it would be like pictures, shots of like Bela Lugosi as Dracula and stuff like that. And I'd always get those and flip through them, like Creature of the Black Lagoon and all that stuff. And I loved them. So at a young age, the books honestly is what got me into it. And then my first horror movie I really remember like implanting on me was I don't remember what Friday the 13th. I just remember wanting to watch it, and my father was watching at the time, and I sat in there and I was being really quiet and really good, as kids do when they don't want to like have parents move them somewhere. You're like best behavior. Like if they don't see me or hear me and I'm not doing nothing, I'm not gonna get moved. And then, what are you doing?
That was me as a kid blending in.
Oh yeah. And I remember my mom coming in and being like, "Hey, you're gonna have nightmares." Like, no, I'm not. She's like, "Well, you don't talk to me, don't cry to me if you have nightmares." Like, fine. So I got to watch all of it, and I was so psyched on it. And I went and took a shower afterwards. And I remember my father come out there, and he didn't have a chainsaw, but he started a weed eater outside the window. And I was just like trying to scare me, and I remember thinking, "That's not a chainsaw." So like, wasn't even scared. I was just like, "What is he doing?" Because it's and I was like, "Okay," but yeah. So that'd be me. What about you? What got you into it?
I'm going to be honest with you. I've been into horror even longer than I've been into Batman.
Ooh.
So it's hard for me to pinpoint exactly what it was that started me on the horror journey. Because I've been watching horror since I could literally start picking up remotes and stuff for myself. Like, I've been watching it forever. there are three things that come to mind immediately when I think of my childhood, the earliest memories I have, like 3 years old memories. One was a show that we're all familiar with. The show is called The X-Files.
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing the theme song for not watching it, just hearing the theme song for X-Files and being like, oh shit, what is that? And being scared of it. I had no idea what the show was about. Didn't know it was called X-Files. I just heard the theme song, and that started it for me. Aside from that, there was this movie that I borrowed from a woman that used to take my babysitter. Actually, let me borrow this movie called Demonic Toys. And for those of you who don't know, the uninitiated, that is a B horror movie from Full Moon Studios, and it's about these literal demonic toys. It's a toy store that gets possessed. Essentially, all these toys come to life. There's a baby doll called Baby Oops-a-Daisy that shows up, and it starts talking and cussing people out and stabbing people and stuff. There's a teddy bear that eats people. Like it's insane. It's a bad, terrible movie. But I used to watch that over and over again on tape as a kid because I've got to borrow it. And then, of course, you have, the Michaels and Freddys and Jasons and all that. I watched Halloween pretty early on, and I don't remember, like you said, Sin, I don't remember which Friday the 13th I saw, but it was later on because Jason definitely had a mask when I was watching.
I think mine had a mask too.
Yeah, so I'm watching one of those. 3? Yeah, part 3 is where it starts. I had no idea what I was watching. I just knew that people were dying and they were teenagers and all the kids lived, so I was fine. If you were a kid, you live. And then when I got to be a teenager, I was like, oh shit, I can fucking die now. I'm in high school and all that stuff. And then you start watching movies like Scream, and then you deconstruct horror, then construct it back, and blah blah blah. But though X-Files is definitely one of the things that got me into horror very early on.
Did you ever watch Nick at Night when you were a kid?
I did. I used to watch Are You Afraid of the Dark a lot.
Do you remember that?
Which one?
Alfred Hitchcock Presents. I'm old. I remember as a kid watching that.
I watched a couple episodes of that, but I didn't really get to watch a lot of that because by the time I had access to a TV that late at night, that was already off the air. So I had to go back and watch reruns of that. But I do know what you're talking about. But
I just remember the silhouette of him walking in front of it, like walking into it or whatever, like the outline.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'll tell you, it just came to my mind just now. One of the first horror movies that I attempted to watch that I was forbidden to watch was the TV movie from 1990, It. That was one of the first things I tried to watch. The only scene that I got to see, because my mom was pissed when she found out I was watching this, it was the scene where Pennywise, opens the fucking drain when the kid's taking a shower and starts to come up out of the drain. I didn't even get to finish the scene. I only saw the part where he opens the drain and he starts to come out, and that was it. My mom was like, no, absolutely not. You can't watch this. And I wanted to watch that movie so bad after that. I needed to watch that movie. I finally got to watch that shit later on, and it wasn't nearly as scary as I had built it up to be in my head. But yeah, man, I was scared shitless. I didn't know what Pennywise was. I just knew that he was a clown. I didn't even remember what he looked like because I didn't get to see him. I only saw his the top of his head and his hands come out of the drain. So I just made it up in my head what he looks like. And I was freaking the fuck out. So that's probably one of the first things that actually got me into horror was that and the theme song for the X-Files. So that's what got me.
Think about it. I don't even know why he tried to do a weed eater. It's not like we're watching Texas Chainsaw. I don't know. I guess it's trying to freak a young kid out.
Yeah, man.
Let me just start one of these outside the window. That's how it goes. Oh, all right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. If you'd like your last call question featured on an episode, join the Guild over guilded.gg/Sinister Pack in the application. Put from the podcast. There's a section just for last call questions, as well as episode chat and lots of other good things. You can discuss drinks, you can discuss episodes, you can post your last call question, you can also post Sinister Tales, so we can read that and talk about that for a section in the show. You can follow us on social media and DM us your last call question there at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Sippin With Sin, Sippin with Sin. And as always, the episodes drop every Wednesday, 8 a.m. Central Time on Apple, Spotify, Google, Overcast, Anchor.fm, and more. Every Wednesday, 8 a.m. Rate 5 stars. Follow, subscribe, share it. Pass it along to a friend. Show some love as continue to grow. The video version of the podcast comes out every Wednesday on YouTube, on my personal YouTube, youtube.com/IamSinister, 8 a.m. Go subscribe to the channel and be sure to give it a thumbs up. You can comment like beautiful Yobi and H have done on the videos as well. Oh, you need to go check that too, Christian, because Yobi's talking. He yells Mass Effect because he's so happy about you talking about Mass Effect, by the way. But
oh yeah,
continue to show love to the podcast. We greatly appreciate it. You can find me on my socials on Twitter and Instagram at IamSinisterTV, and you can find me streaming on twitch.tv/IamSinisterTV, Facebook Gaming, FB.gg/IamSinisterTV, and TikTok at IamSinisterTV. Christian, where can the lovely folks find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram at Vin and Ink, all one word, VENANDINK, all one word on Instagram. You can also find me on my own podcast channel on all the social medias. That is already, for some reason, just blanked on my own stuff. It just literally went away from my brain. Isn't that crazy how that works?
Yeah.
All I can think of is Sippin With Sin because you've just been saying that a bunch. So that's stuck in my head.
Oh, my God. Christian's broken.
I'm broken right now, dude. You know what? You can't find me on social medias whatsoever because I don't like social media that much. So
Horrorverse Pod is where you
gotta,
can find Christian.
You gotta Horrorverse Pod is totally where you guys can find me. That's all one word. Also, guys, if you want to hit me up, you want to talk to me, keep commenting, man, in the comment section below. Comment for sure. I'm in there. I'm reading some comments. I didn't see Yobi's, which makes me sad, but I will go and look at it today, and I will comment. So keep doing that. We love to see that.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. It was a long one, so if you've listened this far, you're a real one. We appreciate it. We had a lot to cover, and we'll see you guys next week for episode 4 of The Last of Us and more goodies. Everybody have a great one. And Christian, it's time to send everybody home.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to yet another episode of Sipping With Sin. Be sure to leave a 5-star review. Click that like button. But most importantly, guys, you already know it. Those 3 words I like to say to close out every episode. Say it with me. Don't get gutted.
See you guys next time.